My sister told everyone at my engagement party that my fiancé was just marrying me for my trust fund, then tried to seduce him at our rehearsal dinner. So I did this at her 30th birthday, and now she's disowned by the entire family. So I, female, 29, come from a pretty well-off family. We're not billionaires or anything like that, but definitely comfortable. And my parents set up trust funds for both me and my older sister, Charlene, female 30. We both were supposed to get access after meeting certain conditions, finishing college, working in the family business for at least 3 years, and showing we could be financially responsible, whatever that means. I got access to mine last year after finishing my MBA and putting in my time at the company. My fiancé Malcolm, male, 31, and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months now. We met at this charity auction that my friend dragged me to. He was there with his college roommate, who was on the organizing committee. We ended up talking the whole night about this documentary series about ancient Rome that we both were obsessed with. He's a high school history teacher and is so passionate about what he does. He's honestly the most genuine person I've ever met. Oh, and Malcolm still drives this old Honda that's literally falling apart. It's like 12 years old and makes this weird noise when it starts up. I've offered to help him get a new car, but he refuses. He's super independent about money stuff and always insists on paying his share of everything, even though I could easily cover it. Sometimes it's frustrating, but I respect that about him. Actually, it's one of the things that made me realize he wasn't with me for money. Anyway, my relationship with my sister Charlene has always been complicated. Growing up, she was always the outgoing, fun one, while I was more the quiet, responsible type who got good grades. Our parents definitely played favorites, depending on the situation. They'd praise me for academic stuff, but would go crazy over whatever creative project Charlene was into that month. We've always had this weird competitive thing going on since we were kids. Charlene never got her trust fund because she dropped out of college junior year to start a jewelry business. That failed after my parents invested like $50 in it. Then she spent 6 months traveling around Thailand and Vietnam instead of coming back to school. She's basically jumped from one thing to another her whole life. She convinced my parents to fund a photography exhibition that never actually happened. Most recently, she was working at this boutique marketing agency, but got fired like 3 months ago. Her boyfriend of 2 years also broke up with her around the same time, so she's been living in our parents' guest house. About 2 weeks before our engagement party, Charlene asked me for a small loan of $15,000 to get back on her feet. I said no because she has never paid back money she's borrowed from me. Ever. Not even small amounts. I tried to be nice about it, but she got super defensive and hung up on me. I felt bad afterward, I always do, and almost called her back to offer a smaller amount. But Malcolm reminded me of the time last year when she borrowed $2,000 for emergency rent and then posted Instagram stories from a spa weekend the next day. So our engagement party was 6 weeks ago at my parents' country club. Everything seemed really perfect at first. The food was amazing, both our families were getting along great, and even Charlene seemed to be in a good mood, though I noticed she was hitting the champagne pretty hard. When it came time for toasts, my dad went first with a sweet speech about welcoming Malcolm to the family. Then Malcolm's parents said some really nice stuff about me, and then Charlene grabbed the microphone. At first, it seemed like a normal toast. She started talking about us as kids and some cute stories about us growing up. But then things took this weird turn. She started getting really specific about when Malcolm and I met, when we got serious, and when we got engaged. She implied Malcolm proposed just 2 months after I got access to my trust fund and suggested it wasn't a coincidence. The whole room got so quiet. I was literally frozen in my seat. My stomach dropped and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then she kept going, saying Malcolm was suddenly interested in learning about the family business investments, which isn't true. He just asked my dad one question about stocks because he's trying to learn how to manage his teacher's pension better. She suggested I should consider a prenup while smiling fakely. My dad tried to take the mic from her, but she kept it away from him and continued. She said she was just looking out for me and implied some people only see dollar signs when they look at me. I wanted to die. Malcolm finally stood up and firmly told her that was enough. He didn't yell, but you could tell he was angry. I just sat there completely mortified, couldn't even speak. After Charlene finally sat down, everyone was trying to act normal, but you could tell the whole vibe was ruined. Malcolm was so sweet afterward. He held my hand under the table and told me he loves me, not my money, and reminded me that he didn't even know about the trust fund until we'd been dating for over a year, which is totally true. I never talk about money stuff early in relationships because I've had bad experiences with guys who were clearly just interested in my family's money. The thing that makes me crazy is that my parents totally downplayed the whole thing. My mom said Charlene just gets like that when she feels left out, and my dad wanted to move past it for family harmony. Like, excuse me. She basically called my fiancé a gold digger in front of all our friends and family. But they've always been this way with Charlene, making excuses for her behavior and expecting me to just deal with it because I'm the reasonable one. But I've always been the peacekeeper in the family. I hate conflict, so I reluctantly agreed to just move forward. I figured Charlene was just jealous and acting out because her life is kind of a mess right now. I thought things were getting better after that. Charlene even texted me a half apology, basically saying sorry if I was upset by what she said, which isn't really an apology, but whatever. But then at our rehearsal dinner last weekend, oh my freaking God, something happened that made me realize this is so much worse than I thought. I'm still in shock about it. I don't even know if I can type it all out right now, but I need to figure out what to do. Edit, a lot of people are asking about the prenup comment. No, we haven't discussed a prenup, and honestly, I don't want one. I trust Malcolm completely. My family has never pushed for one before. Charlene brought it up at the party. Edit 2. Thanks for all the supportive comments. To those asking if there were red flags from Charlene before this, yes, looking back there were, but I always made excuses for her behavior. I feel so stupid now. Edit 3. Some people are asking about my parents' reaction to the rehearsal dinner incident. I'll post an update about that whole situation soon. It's a lot to type out, and I'm still processing everything. Edit 4. To answer the question about Malcolm's reaction, he was hurt but tried to hide it during the party. Later that night, he told me he understood why some people might think that way, given our different financial backgrounds, but that he hoped I knew better. He's honestly too good for this stuff. Edit 5. I know this sounds like it could be fake, but I swear this is unfortunately my real life. I wish I was making it up. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. Thank you to everyone who commented with advice and support. I honestly didn't expect so many responses. Sorry for the delay in updating, but I've been trying to figure out what to do, and everything's been so overwhelming. After the engagement party disaster, where Charlene basically called Malcolm a gold digger in front of everyone, I decided to try and salvage my relationship with her. I know, probably stupid of me, but she's still my sister, and we've had our issues, but I've always tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Plus, my parents were calling me constantly, saying I needed to be the bigger person, and she didn't mean it that way, and all that BS. They always say when Charlene does something awful. So about 2 weeks after the engagement party, Charlene and I met for lunch at this cafe we used to go to when we were younger. I figured a neutral place would be better in case things went south. She showed up 20 minutes late, typical, but actually seemed kind of sorry. She gave me this half-assed apology about how she was just looking out for me and had maybe had too much champagne at the party. She kept saying stuff like, "You know how I get when I drink," as if that excuse is publicly humiliating me and Malcolm. But anyway, I really wanted to believe her. I've always been the one to smooth things over in our family, something I'm realizing isn't healthy, but whatever. I told her I appreciated the apology, but that she needed to apologize to Malcolm too. She kind of rolled her eyes, but agreed she would. Oh, and this is random, but it made me feel weird. When we were kids, we had this secret handshake we'd do after we resolved arguments. It was this silly thing with like 5 steps that ended with us linking pinkies. So at the end of lunch, I tried to initiate it. Stupid, I know. And Charlene literally laughed and said, "Aren't we a little old for that?" Like I was being ridiculous. I don't know why, but that hurt almost as much as the original fight. Like she couldn't even give me that small thing. Malcolm was skeptical when I told him about the lunch. He warned me to be careful. He's always been wary of Charlene, but tries not to say anything negative because he knows it upsets me. Looking back, I should have listened to him more. Ugh, why am I so stupid sometimes? Anyway, Our wedding is scheduled for next month at this vineyard about an hour outside the city. We both wanted something intimate with just close friends and family, about 75 people. Malcolm's family is coming from out of state, and they're all so nice and normal and drama-free, which makes my family look even more dysfunctional, lol. So, against Malcolm's gentle advice, and probably against my better judgment, I asked Charlene to remain my maid of honor. I don't know. I thought it would help repair our relationship. And honestly, I was afraid of the drama it would cause with my parents if I demoted her or whatever. She seemed super happy about it, like suspiciously happy looking back. She even organized this surprisingly lovely bridal shower 2 weeks ago with all my friends. Everyone kept saying how thoughtful it was and how Charlene had really outdone herself. It made me think things were improving, and maybe she was finally growing up. Something else I should mention. My grandmother's old emerald necklace has been in our family for generations, and it was supposed to be my something borrowed for the wedding. My grandmother wore it at her wedding, and my mom wore it at hers. It's not super valuable, but it has a lot of sentimental value. So last weekend was our rehearsal dinner at this restaurant near the vineyard. The first part of the evening was actually really nice. Both families seemed to be getting along, the food was excellent, and even Charlene was on her best behavior. She was complimenting the wine selection I'd chosen and chatting with Malcolm's parents about their drive up from Virginia. She was being so normal that I actually started to relax. I did notice she started drinking pretty heavily during dinner though, like way too many glasses of wine. I kept counting and I think she had at least 5 or 6 glasses in the span of like 2 hours. It made me nervous, but I tried to just ignore it because everything else was going so well. At some point during dessert, I was talking with Malcolm's mom about our honeymoon plans. We're going to Greece for 2 weeks, and I suddenly realized I hadn't seen Malcolm or Charlene for like 20 minutes, maybe longer. I don't know exactly, but suddenly I got this weird feeling in my stomach. So I excused myself to look for them, and as I was checking the bathrooms, my cousin Gina pulled me aside looking really upset. Her eyes were all wide, and she looked like she didn't know whether to tell me something or not. My heart literally dropped, and I felt sick immediately. She pulled me into this little alcove by the restrooms and told me she had seen something I needed to know about. She explained that she had stepped out onto the terrace for a phone call, and she saw Charlene cornering Malcolm by the railing. According to Gina, Charlene was standing very close to Malcolm, touching his arm and flirting with him. Gina heard Charlene tell Malcolm that she knew what he was really after with my sister. Malcolm tried to leave, saying she'd had too much to drink. But then Charlene blocked his path and told him she has access to family money too. Gina said Malcolm firmly told her he loves me and that their conversation was inappropriate. And then Charlene laughed and told him they could have fun together and she wouldn't make him sign a prenup. Then she tried to kiss him. Malcolm pushed her away and said he would pretend this never happened for my sake. Then Charlene said I would never believe him over her anyway. I was literally shaking when Gina finished telling me this. Part of me wanted to believe it was some kind of mistake, but then Malcolm found us a minute later, looking really upset, and immediately started telling me the exact same story without knowing Gina had already told me. I found Charlene by the bar getting another drink and pulled her into this empty side room. She was definitely drunk at this point, slurring her words and stuff. When I asked her why she would try to seduce my fiancé, she laughed it off and said I was being dramatic, claiming he had been eyeing her all night. When I told her Gina saw everything and Malcolm already told me the truth, she completely changed her story. She claimed she was testing Malcolm to see if he was really faithful to me. My parents walked in while we were arguing. Someone must have told them. And Charlene immediately burst into tears, saying I was attacking her for no reason. My dad tried to calm everyone down and suggested we discuss it tomorrow when everyone's sober. That's when I just snapped. I told them all that Charlene was uninvited from the wedding. My mom acted shocked, and my dad started with his usual routine of trying to smooth things over. They took Charlene home, apologizing to everyone for the misunderstanding. In the days after the rehearsal dinner, things got even worse. Malcolm showed me these messages Charlene had been sending him for months, with subtle flirty comments that he'd been politely ignoring. Things like telling him he looked good in a shirt with a winking emoji or offering to talk without me around. Nothing explicitly terrible on its own, but the pattern is obvious looking back. And then I found out from our family's housekeeper, Elena, that my grandmother's emerald necklace is missing from Mom's jewelry box. When I asked my mom about it, she got all weird and evasive, saying she must have misplaced it and didn't want to make a big deal about it right before the wedding. But Elena told me she saw Charlene going through my mom's jewelry about a month ago. I'm not directly accusing her of anything, but it's suspicious timing, right? My parents have called me every day this week suggesting that both girls share some blame and that we should reconcile before the wedding because family comes first. They keep saying Charlene is going through a hard time with her breakup and job loss, and I need to be more understanding. I'm starting to realize my family has been enabling Charlene's behavior for years, like my whole life, basically. And I've been part of the problem by always forgiving her and smoothing things over. So I've officially uninvited Charlene from the wedding. I sent a formal email to her and CC'd my parents so there's no confusion. Malcolm and I have also hired extra security for the venue just in case, which is sad that we even have to consider that. Charlene's 30th birthday party is this weekend. My parents are hosting it at this restaurant they love. I'm not sure if I should go or not. Part of me wants to skip it entirely, but another part of me wants to confront her about everything. I've been gathering evidence of her pattern of behavior over the years, asking friends about things they've witnessed, checking old texts, emails, etc. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all this info yet, but I feel like I need to protect myself somehow. Anyway, that's where things stand now. I'm so exhausted by all of this. The wedding is in 3 weeks, and I just want to enjoy it without all this family drama. Edit. To those asking if Malcolm knew about the flirtatious messages before. Yes, he mentioned them to me once about 6 months ago, but I dismissed it as Charlene just being overly friendly because I didn't want to believe she would do that. He didn't push it because he didn't want to come between us. I feel terrible about not taking it seriously now. Edit 2. Some people are questioning why I didn't demote Charlene after the engagement party. Honestly, I've been conditioned my whole life to keep the peace and not overreact to her behavior. I see now how messed up that is. Edit 3. For those suggesting therapy, yes, I'm looking into it. I clearly have issues with setting boundaries with my family that I need to work on. Edit 4. A lot of you are asking why I would even consider going to Charlene's birthday party after everything. I guess I'm still struggling with the idea of completely cutting her off. We've been through a lot together despite everything. But you're right that attending probably isn't a good idea. Edit 5. To answer questions about the necklace. No, my mom refuses to file a police report. She keeps insisting she probably just misplaced it, even though she's kept it in the same spot for 15 plus years. It's frustrating, but I can't force her to take action. Edit 6. No, we don't have any actual proof Charlene took the necklace. Just the housekeeper's word that she saw her going through the jewelry box around the time it went missing. But given everything else, it seems likely. Now for the second update. So it's been a couple weeks since my last post, and honestly, everything has changed. Like my entire family dynamic is completely different now. Thank you all for the advice and support on my last post. I'm still getting messages, and I'm sorry I haven't responded to everyone. This has been the most exhausting and stressful few weeks of my life, and I'm still trying to process everything. After the rehearsal dinner disaster, where Charlene tried to kiss my fiancé and then claimed she was testing him, my parents have been calling me literally every day, trying to get me to make up with her before the wedding. They keep saying family should come first, and Charlene is just going through a phase, and I need to be more understanding. Like, are you kidding me? She tried to seduce my future husband, and you want me to apologize. I've told them over and over that Charlene isn't welcome at the wedding unless she gives me and Malcolm a real apology, not one of her fake, sorry you feel that way non-apologies. My dad keeps saying I'm being dramatic and that Charlene loves me, which honestly just makes me more angry. Why am I always expected to be the bigger person? Oh, and I found out something crazy while all this was happening. Remember how I mentioned in my last post that our family housekeeper, Elena, told me she saw Charlene going through my mom's jewelry? Well, I called Elena to ask more details about when exactly this happened, and she told me something shocking. She doesn't actually work for my parents anymore. Apparently, she was fired 6 months ago after being accused of stealing some of my mom's jewelry. My parents never even mentioned this to me. Elena was crying, telling me how she worked for our family for 15 years and they just believed she would steal from them. And now I'm 99% sure it was actually Charlene who took the stuff. After that conversation with Elena, something just snapped in me. I decided to start digging into Charlene's past behavior because I felt like there was probably a lot more I didn't know about. And wow, just wow. The stuff I found out is disturbing. I started by reaching out to my ex-boyfriend Zach from college. We dated for almost 2 years and broke up because he heard rumors that I was cheating on him with his roommate, which was completely untrue. I always wondered who started those rumors. Turns out it was Charlene. Zach told me. Charlene told him she saw me coming out of his roommate's bedroom one morning when she was visiting me on campus, which never happened. And that's not even the worst part. I called our grandfather, who I'm super close with, and casually asked if Charlene had ever borrowed money from him. He said yes. About 2 years ago, she asked for $5,000 for a joint gift for our parents' anniversary that we were going to go in on together. I never knew about this. We didn't give our parents any joint gift that year. She just pocketed the money, and my grandfather was too embarrassed to ever bring it up. At this point, I was feeling really upset, but I couldn't stop investigating. I went to my parents' house when they were out. I still have a key, and decided to look through Charlene's old desk in her childhood bedroom. She's been staying in their guest house, but still keeps some stuff in her old room. And that's where I found it, a pawn ticket for my grandmother's emerald necklace. It was stuffed in the back of a drawer under some old notebooks. The ticket was dated about a month ago, right around when the necklace went missing. I literally sat on her bedroom floor and cried for like an hour. How could she do this? That necklace has been in our family for generations. It was supposed to be my something borrowed for the wedding. I took pictures of the pawn ticket as proof. While I was there, I also found my old diary from high school. Reading through it opened my eyes to a pattern I somehow never saw before. There were so many entries about Charlene doing similar things, spreading rumors about me to our friends, borrowing my clothes and returning them damaged, telling guys I liked that I said negative things about them. I had somehow minimized or forgotten most of these incidents over time. Oh, and by the way, I did get the necklace back. I went to the pawn shop with the ticket, and they still had it. Cost me $1,200 to get it out, which is insane, but at least I have it back now. Haven't told my mom yet. So Charlene's 30th birthday was this weekend. My parents were hosting this big party for her at this fancy restaurant downtown. I was originally planning to skip it entirely, obviously, but after finding all this evidence, I decided I needed to go and confront her. Malcolm was really worried about me attending, but supported my decision. He even offered to wait nearby in his car in case things went badly. Have I mentioned how amazing he is? The original plan was to make this special video tribute to Charlene as her birthday gift. I'd been working on it for months, collecting old photos and videos of us growing up. But after discovering all her betrayals, I modified this plan. I know this probably sounds really petty and immature, but I was just so done with her getting away with everything. I arranged for Elena, the wrongfully fired housekeeper, to come to the restaurant too, but to wait in the bar area until I texted her. And I got one more piece of evidence the morning of the party. I managed to record a phone conversation with Charlene, where she basically admitted trying to seduce Malcolm to prove he was only after the money. She also laughed about how she's always been able to manipulate mom and dad. I didn't tell her I was recording, which might be illegal, I don't know, but at this point, I didn't care. When I arrived at the party, Charlene seemed surprised to see me, but quickly put on this fake smile and acted all happy to see me. She kept hugging me and acting like nothing had happened. Throughout dinner, she kept making these little digs at me, referring to my wedding that might happen someday, and making comments about how some men can't be trusted. I just smiled and stayed quiet, waiting for the video presentation. After dinner, my dad announced it was time for the special birthday tribute I had prepared for my loving sister. The restaurant dimmed the lights, and the video started playing on this big screen they had set up. It started off normal, childhood photos of us together, family vacations, her graduation. Everyone was smiling and awing. Then the images transitioned to screenshots of all the flirty messages she'd sent Malcolm over the months. People went from smiling to confused as they realized what they were seeing. Then the video showed the pawn ticket for Grandma's necklace that I found in her desk. Charlene jumped up and yelled to turn it off, but my dad was just standing there, frozen. Next came the audio recording with a little waveform graphic on screen. Everyone heard Charlene admitting she came on to Malcolm to prove he was just after the money and bragging about how she can always manipulate our parents. The restaurant went silent. I stood up and told everyone, this is who my sister really is. I said I've spent my whole life making excuses for her, but that ends today. Then I called Elena in from the bar area. I explained to everyone how she'd been fired after 15 years of loyal service because Charlene stole jewelry and let Elena take the blame. I laid out all the evidence I'd gathered, the pawn ticket, the testimony from my ex about her spreading rumors, the story about taking money from our grandfather. I even read a few entries from my old diary showing this pattern had been going on since we were teenagers. I was shaking the whole time, but somehow managed to keep my voice steady. I finished by telling Charlene that until she gets professional help and genuinely apologizes for everything she's done, she's not welcome in my life or at my wedding. What happened next was intense. Charlene lunged at me, screaming that I was lying about everything. My dad physically stepped between us. He looked completely devastated. He asked Charlene if she really stole the necklace and let Elena take the blame. Charlene tried to deny it, but she couldn't explain the pawn ticket. My mom was just sitting there silently crying and shaking her head. Then our grandfather stood up and told Charlene he's been making excuses for her for too long. Charlene started screaming about everyone taking my side. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, knocking over the champagne tower the restaurant had set up. I apologized to the other guests for ruining the party, but honestly, most of them seemed more shocked than anything. In the days since the birthday blow-up, I've had so many family members contact me with their own stories about Charlene's manipulative behavior over the years. Apparently, she's been doing this kind of stuff to everyone, not just me. My cousin told me Charlene once deleted important files from her laptop right before a big presentation. My aunt said Charlene started a rumor that her husband was having an affair, which almost caused them to divorce. It's like everyone was just waiting for someone to finally stand up to her. My parents were initially really angry at me for the public confrontation, but after a few days, they called and asked to meet for lunch. It was probably the most honest conversation we've ever had. My dad admitted they've always made excuses for Charlene because she seemed more fragile than me. He said I always seemed so self-sufficient that they didn't think I needed as much attention or support, which is so messed up when you think about it. Like they rewarded her bad behavior and ignored me because I wasn't causing problems. Our wedding was last weekend, and it was honestly perfect without Charlene there. My parents did end up coming after a lot of soul-searching. I was worried there would be problems, but it was actually really peaceful and joyful. I've never been one for public confrontations, despite what happened at the birthday party lol. But standing up to Charlene and my parents has been weirdly freeing. Most of our extended family has basically disowned Charlene until she demonstrates real change. My parents have finally cut off financial support and told her she needs to get therapy before they'll have a relationship with her again. She's been sending these manipulative texts to everyone, alternating between playing the victim and making threats. It's actually just reinforcing everyone's decision to keep their distance. I have mixed feelings about how everything turned out. I don't regret standing up for myself at all, but I do feel sad about the family fracture. Like, I always thought one day Charlene would grow up and we'd have a normal sister relationship. Now, I'm not sure that will ever happen. Malcolm and I are focusing on building our life together now. We're leaving for our honeymoon in Greece tomorrow, and I'm so excited to just get away from all this for a while. I'm also looking into therapy for myself, because I clearly have some issues with setting boundaries that I need to work on. Oh, and one last thing. My dad called last night to tell me Charlene was seen parked outside their house for several hours yesterday. She didn't come in or anything, just sat in her car watching the house. So I don't think this is completely over yet. But for the first time, I feel like I can handle whatever comes next without sacrificing my own happiness. Edit. So many people are asking if I pressed charges about the necklace. No, I didn't. Even though I have proof with the pawn ticket, I just couldn't bring myself to have my own sister arrested. Maybe that makes me weak, but it's a line I'm not ready to cross. Edit 2. To everyone asking about Elena, the housekeeper, yes, my parents have apologized to her and offered her job back with a significant raise. She's considering it, but understandably hesitant. Edit 3. Some of you have asked if there were signs of Charlene's behavior that I missed growing up. Looking back, yes, there were so many, but my parents always minimized them. That's just how sisters are, and I was conditioned to forgive and forget. Classic enabler family dynamic that I'm only now recognizing. Edit 4. For those suggesting I should have handled this privately instead of causing a scene at her birthday, I tried the private approach for years. Nothing changed. Sometimes public accountability is the only thing that works with manipulative people. Edit 5. Thank you to everyone who said they're proud of me for standing up for myself. That honestly made me cry in a good way. I've spent so long trying to keep the peace that I forgot what it feels like to actually defend myself. Edit 6. To the person who asked if Malcolm knew about all this investigation I was doing. Yes, he was aware and supportive, but worried about how obsessed I was getting. He was right that it wasn't healthy to spend so much time digging into her past, but I needed to see the full pattern to finally break free from it.